Hey there, YouTube. Today I want to spend a little bit of time working into my analog workspace. This channel is really about a lot of my video work, but you may or may not know a lot of my background is kind of in visual communications and storytelling. I own a little company called 1980, and in that company, I do quite a bit of graphic facilitation, visual work, presentation design, and so I want to bring some of that into this channel and kind of show you my current setup. So today I am going to be sharing more content around this concept and idea I'm calling hashtag work analog. We are in a world where we're spending way too much of our time in Zoom meetings sitting in front of the computer. And so I am proposing that we do more of our work in a physical format. And so today I wanted to share a little bit of information and some of my thoughts around working analog, finding ways to get away from the screen and get back to our roots in touching physical things. You'll notice that my workspace here is just on a low leather surface pad. I like leather quite a bit, as evidenced by a lot of my reviews on my channel. This is a veg tan leather surface I got on Etsy. Over time, it's going to get darker, and so it's going to reflect the kind of work. It's going to show the coffee cups that's sitting here, the stains that are getting formed here. And I think that's what makes us human, and that what makes it awesome. So let's talk about the setup. Let's start with, how am I doing this? Like, how is this actually happening? So here I am sitting in this little space right here, and I'm at my desk. And at my desk, I have over here is the Logitech Streamcam. That's this camera that's overhead right here. This, I'm using a webcam as opposed to a mirrorless camera because I wanted this plug in permanently. It is attached up here via this little arm. It's a little selfie stick, and the selfie stick is attached to the wall, and it's constantly kind of creating this downward view. And that's where you got my paper here and my little desk space over here. Over here filming me, this camera right here, is the Fuji X-T3. I'm a Fuji shooter, but you can use whatever camera you want. And the reason I'm using a mirrorless camera is it's going to give you that shallow depth of field, kind of that cool blurry look. And I wanted to kind of really bump up the production value. I got a mic over here, this one right here. This is the Shure SM7B. I think it's a popular podcast mic. It's fairly expensive. I have another one over here, but I personally prefer just the Shure SM7B. That is connected via this jack over here into the Rodecaster Pro. And the reason I'm using the Rodecaster Pro is because these mics by themselves generally are somewhat flat. They're designed to be flat. And then the processing happens. With the Rodecaster Pro, what's happening is it's applying signal processing, compression, a bunch of sound engineering that I have no idea what it is, and it makes it sound better. And so that is why I'm using it. This camera is then attached via HDMI into the ATEM Mini Pro. It's an overkill switcher, but it allows me to have 4 HDMI inputs. And if needed, I can have other camera angles. In this video, I only have just 2, the overhead and the talking head perspective. That's the general setup here. In the background, I'm running a LG 49-inch screen, ultra wide, that lets me have multiple windows up. Not necessary for this setup, but it's important when I'm doing online hosting workshops and classes that I'm able to have multiple views. I can see what's happening over here. What's really important is I'm using this app called and you can go visit them at mmhmm.app. And this application, this kind of cool piece of software, what it does, it allows me to build little screens. So in this screen right here, this little box that you are seeing right now, I have my webcam. This is that webcam up here that's always projecting down here. I can turn it off. I can make it full screen, or I can do it just kind of this view over here. And over here, I have myself just in a box. And it's the layout that I've created. I'm very happy with it. But let's play around with different options that you can play over here. You can blur yourself out if you want to do it. Kind of create this glitching effect, rain. They have all kinds of different filters you can turn on and off over here. you can do it this way. So I personally prefer this way, but it requires me to set up a green screen. And just from ease of production, I rarely do that. So I like to just leave it in this format. I can also be a circle. I can move myself around. But for me personally, this is my preferred method. I like to keep it simple, avoid too much glamorous things. Because remember, we are in the space of working analog. And so, hey, as I'm filming some of this right here, let me switch over so you can see the full screen here. These pens are, it's a Tombow. It has a brush tip over here, which helps you do that shape. And a marker on this side where you can do some marking work. I carry these pens all the time inside my leather pouch, and they help me with just highlighting, just as demonstrated earlier. As I'm doing that work, I'm just highlighting some information, getting some stuff out there. So these pens come with me all the time. And then in terms of markers, I can't pronounce this word, it's a Stadler Pigment liner. Here's a pretty thick pen. And it goes from super thick pens down to super thin pens for different purposes. I carry the whole set. Let's see, this is a 0.7. So this is getting a little bit lighter. In almost every varying width I have, got my fountain pens over here and a couple other pens. This is my kit. It's carried around with me in this leather roll. I can take it around with me all the time. And let me also just mention a couple other notebooks that I have over here. So when I founded my company in January of 2020, 1980, I started using this notebook. And so this notebook, it's a Write in the Rain notebook. It's waterproof, essentially. And you can either use pencil, and I've actually dunked this into the water, or you can use a pen. And there's a select number set. You can't use felt pens, I think. It has to be a certain specific type of pen. Even these gel pens won't work. And so we're using this pen. And for me, I do a lot of my thinking out in the hot tub. So we got a hot tub in the property, just a little nice heater tub. I'm in a tub, and I'm bringing my notebook, and it's the space for me to kind of think. And so this pen, this kit right here, has been part of me early on day one when I was doing some branding work for my own personal company, trying to figure out who I am and who I wanted to be. This one has been really awesome, and I carry it around with me all the time. The other notebook I wanted to talk about is the Sketchnote Idea Book. This is done by Mike Rohde with a collaboration with Airship Notebooks. This is where I do a lot of my doodling, a lot of my sketchnoting, and here's a sketch note of something I did for my friend's book. Just doing some therapy sessions in here. Shout out to Sonny Brown on the visual alphabet. Just working on some doodles myself. Here's my friend Diana Cockrell did an awesome poem that I kind of sketched together. This is a class I took on building racial equity, practicing some of my lettering. My friend Deborah Baker did a workshop on finding our common fire. And most recently, I did a piece on myself as part of a therapy session. Just kind of what I need in terms of being included, being myself, finding calm, getting love. And this was my play into watercolors, and so I carried around this watercolor kit. And as shown, it's pretty, I barely used it, so most of these watercolors are almost brand new. But I have this watercolor pen that you can fill with water, and it's portable, so you can carry around with you everywhere. That's part of my kit right there. And let me close out on two more topics. One is here's a book I bought just before the pandemic started by Linda Berry. It's making comics, and I just love her style. I just like it's almost kid-like, something like my kids would do, and just really cool sketch. So I'm gonna play around with this a little bit more, get some inspiration, and bring some of these ideas into my my sketch note that I carry all the way. And there's a little note that got stuck to my set. I'm going to close out with another thing, because right now I think Dispo, if you're following along the trends, Dispo is a really hot app. It's a disposable camera app. And I'm not sure I'm going to jump in that bandwagon yet. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I have been using my Fuji X100V. This is my Dispo camera. So let me just turn it on and I'll show you a few things that I like about this one. So in this camera, there are these film simulations and also just recipes online. So people have used all the built-in settings, hue, saturation, color, noise reduction. All these settings are now programmed in here and it can simulate a certain type of film. And so for me, although this is a digital camera, what it does is it forces me to slow down my process a little bit, grab and take images, and then I'm going to leave it as this. I'm not going to do any editing. I might bring it to Lightroom and do a few tweaks on exposure if I get it wrong. But for the most part, I'm treating it as a film camera. And so it's going to slow down. And I wanted to get to a little more photography and visual storytelling. Hey, that's the general gist of my presentation today and how I'm using the software. If you have any questions, how do you want to work more visually? How do you want to work more analog and get in touch with the physical world? It looks like we're going to be in this pandemic for a long while. So let's hunker down. Let's reconnect with our roots, get more grounded to the ground, get touching in more physical, tangible things like Post-it notes, pens, so on and so forth. I'm going to be sharing some of this in the channel. And if you're interested, please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.